everyone, and welcome to
The Movie House.
Today we're going to talk to you about a movie from 1953 called The Naked Spur, starring Jimmy Stewart, Janet Leigh, and Robert Ryan. What are your thoughts on the movie?
Well, I love Jimmy Stewart, and most people may not know this, that the majority of the movies that he did were actually Westerns. So I don't believe I ever heard of The Naked Spur, and I don't think you had either, but you saw that it was recommended. So I liked it. I thought it was well done. It was very interesting, but I have to admit that it seemed a conglomeration of other Westerns, like True Grit. It reminded me of True Grit. It reminded us of
The Treasure of the Sierra Madre.
Yes, have some of the undertones of that. And at one point, it was almost a nod back to It's a Wonderful Life when Jimmy Stewart, in his fever and delirium, was going, Mary, Mary.
Right.
So that kind of took me out of the movie.
Okay.
And Janet Leigh, it's Janet Leigh, right? She reminded me of Doris Day and Calamity Jane. I don't know if you caught that, but she reminded me of Calamity Jane.
Okay,
a little bit, just her look.
Sure, yes, now that you mentioned it, I can see that.
Yeah, you can see that. So it wasn't a very unique movie that I thought it could have been.
Yeah, from what I've read, it's highly regarded. It's on the list of 1,001 movies you should see before you die, and lists like that. And I was a little underwhelmed by it. The scenery was beautiful.
Oh yeah, it's Colorado. It was in the Rockies.
Right, and the acting was very good, but overall it just didn't. The story didn't grab me like I thought it would. It's a very actually interesting storyline where this man is hunting a criminal, and out in the Old West, and he comes across an old prospector.
That he is. He's an old prospector.
Right, he's an old prospector, and he sort of talks him in to helping him by agreeing to pay him a fee because he believes the prospector thinks he might have seen this guy recently, and so they go looking for him, and the tension just wasn't there that I expected, and I think it might be partly just my opinion, is the way Robert Ryan and the guy who plays the Union lieutenant who shows up, I can't remember his name offhand, I'll put it on the screen. They're both such happy guys. It was a little weird.
Right. The bad guy was creepy.
Yeah.
He was always smiling and just like, oh yeah, I'll just do this and I do that. So he was kind of creepy. But you're right, the lieutenant, the cavalryman, was very cavalier and
yeah, I don't understand.
To be in the middle of the Rockies on your own and be that chipper, I guess, is kind of.
Yeah. And Jimmy Stewart's character is very serious. He's very focused. He's almost driven, and his prey. When they finally meet up with each other, it's just kind of, hey, how are you? How you doing, Howie? And
smiley.
And I know maybe it's like a front he's putting on just to throw people off balance. But when you have him doing that, and then the lieutenant character sort of being the same sort of beats in his character portrayal, it just was a little odd for me. I didn't quite work.
Yeah, it was. They were too different. I think the characters and then how they interacted with each other.
Well, they're different, but they're the same.
Yeah, no. I meant all of them as a group.
Oh,
they try to make them all different, but they weren't meshing, and nobody really had a connection with anyone.
Yeah.
Janet Leigh's character plays the daughter of the best friend of the criminal. He's deceased now, and he's kind of taken her under his wing. So you don't even really know what's going on between them that much either. And I just thought it was funny when we were watching it, how the prospector kept ordering her around to do things because she was a woman.
Just because she was a woman, yeah.
It's like, okay, here's a woman. I haven't seen a woman in probably 15 years, and I'm going to tell her to make coffee and get the fire going. And so I thought that was really odd too.
Yeah.
And she finally told him, it's like, I don't answer to you.
Yeah.
So I thought that was strange too, that, okay, well, there's a woman here and it's my job to order you around.
Right. But he only seemed to do that when nobody else was around, though.
Yeah, that could be.
Because he knew he wasn't the big cheese in the group.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when he only, if I remember right, he only did it when it was just he and she. Otherwise, he kind of just went with the flow. But yeah, that was an interesting thing that happened in the movie. And I thought Janet Leigh was good in the part. She's very sort of angry and feisty, and like I said, we're not sure where exactly her loyalties lie sometimes. And she was almost unrecognizable to me because this is very young. She's like 26.
She's very young. I believe this was before Psycho. So
yeah, this is well before Psycho, and so she's very young, and her hair is very short. Like I said, it looked very Calamity Jane-ish, and it was very very close cropped and blonde. And I almost didn't recognize her, but she was good. I thought she did a good job with what she had to work with.
Right. I mean, I think the story, like I said, it was a conglomeration. It wasn't something new.
Yeah.
Because I saw these other aspects. And I think this came before True Grit, too, possibly.
Oh, yes.
So, but that's what it reminded me of.
Yes,
and then the Treasure of Sierra Madre, just the characters and and maybe if we hadn't seen those movies first and saw this, that would have made it a better movie.
Perhaps for its day in 1953, maybe this was really, really good, and maybe that's reputation continues with people who have that frame of reference for it. But for us, coming into it cold, 70 years later, yeah, literally that was 70 years ago.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, and having seen the other things we've seen, it wasn't.
It took.
I mean, even the Treasure of the Sierra Madre, which is a much older movie and in black and white.
Oh,
that really grips you.
That grabs you.
And this, I was kind of expecting that since we saw those similarities early on. I was waiting for that, and it never really materialized for me.
No, and the ending was kind of abrupt too.
Yeah.
And I think the relationship between James Stewart and Janet Leigh, that didn't seem real either.
No, it wasn't believable.
It wasn't believable. And
you could see it coming a mile away.
Almost. Right. What they were going to do because, and I thought it was interesting that, spoiler alert, if this is a spoiler alert, that Jimmy Stewart, the reason he's going after this man is the reward.
Right.
And I thought that was interesting. They kind of kept making him like he's a bad guy for doing it. Like he's not trying to get this criminal just because he's a criminal. It's because he wants the money. He needs the money. And I thought that was odd. It's like, well, what's wrong with that?
Yeah, I had the same reaction because, the way the story wraps up, that's the feeling you're sort of left with, that the movie itself is telling you Jimmy Stewart is a very, very flawed individual. But I didn't get that because I liked how they were sort of laying breadcrumbs about his backstory and the bad guy's backstory.
Which I think they could have done more.
Right, and then their intersections in the past. And and there could have been more of that to flesh that out.
Yeah, it wasn't very, it was
sooner
very
and more
shallow.
Specifically,
and surface. It wasn't very deep. Because they made it, and I think that was the thing, like the music. I thought the music was very compelling at the beginning because you did have that tension.
Right.
There's that suspense. And you're expecting more out of it. And then you just get the surface stuff. And it's like, well, because they made it sound like this criminal and Jimmy Stewart have known each other a long time. That's how they kind of played it, in my view. And then they never really, like you said, they gave you a couple of breadcrumbs. They didn't. Yeah.
And when you do finally put all the pieces together, you understand where Jimmy Stewart's character is coming from, why he's doing what he's doing. And I didn't feel like he was a bad person for doing it for the money because of the circumstances he was in. It made perfect sense, and it wasn't personal. He just wanted to capture this guy so he could get the reward.
Right, and I think
And that's what people do today.
Right, bounty hunters, right? Dog,
Yeah.
the bounty hunter. And I think that's the thing too, is if they would have made that more depth about his reasoning and what happened. I still think that was kind of surface and shallow. They just kind of told you, but it's like, oh wow, that's a really compelling reason.
Yeah.
But they didn't really, I think they really could have made it an emotional so that you felt for him.
Yeah, and if they made his character, Jimmy Stewart's character, more overtly gray, because it's Jimmy Stewart,
right?
And everybody loves Jimmy Stewart, and while he said some things and did a few things here and there, they never really showed me that his character had deep flaws, and that what he was doing for the wrong reasons. And so I should not like him as much as I would as any Jimmy Stewart character. But they didn't do that.
No.
Maybe because he's Jimmy Stewart. I don't know.
You don't want, because people do that. You don't want him to hate you. But I think it would have helped more.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
But it's not something I would probably watch again, but I would consider, view it.
Yeah,
make up your own mind, because you may not have seen the movies that, influenced us on this either. So you may go, wow, this is all new and fresh. And
yeah, it's only about an hour and a half long. It's 91 minutes, and it's beautiful. The scenery's good. The acting's pretty good, and the actors, and it's really just these 5 people for the most part.
Out in the middle of nowhere.
The movie. That's you only have to follow 5 characters, so it's pretty straightforward and easy to follow. But it's I don't know if I can recommend it. I didn't like it overall, so I can't recommend it. But if you like Jimmy Stewart, if you like these actors,
just
you
check
like
it
cowboy
out.
movies, it might be worth your time. Maybe you'll have a different reaction to it.
Right.
Okay. Well, that's it for the Naked Spur. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again soon.
Bye.